Tim, I first want to ask about that suggestion from Alan Dershowitz to give Ghislaine Maxwell so-called use immunity and then have her testify to Congress. Well, just in this last hour, Joyce Vance told me that Congress could just subpoena her. They don't need a use immunity reason for doing so. Do you see any scenario where Ghislaine Maxwell testifies to Congress, and could that lay all questions to rest?
Boy, I don't know if anything could lay all questions to rest at this point, but it certainly would be useful to have Ghislaine Maxwell testify to Congress. It's hard for me to get inside her head at this point, and obviously she's serving time. What would be the value for her? What could be offered to her? Maybe that's what Dershowitz is saying, though any immunity suggestions for Dershowitz offers a pretty bad flashback to the original Epstein arrest way back in 2006, 7, 8, where he was given immunity and Maxwell was given immunity at the time from further prosecution when he got that sweetheart deal. So, look, I don't know what she would want to do. I think certainly, if you're the Democrats looking ahead to the midterms, thinking that subpoenaing Ghislaine Maxwell would make a lot of sense for them next year, depending on what happens in the meantime. And I think that is all going to continue to be part of the discussion. I don't think any of this is going to go away.
Alexei, envision this. A hearing like this with Ghislaine Maxwell testifying could potentially be a bigger spectacle, anyway, than the January 6th hearing. So what's your reaction to that prospect?
It's all such a spectacle, and it's one of Trump's own making at this point. It's crazy that the issue at hand, of course, is so gross and abhorrent. It's about child sex trafficking and people who have been involved in that. And yet here we are trying to just get basic facts because victims and others want to hold these folks to account. I think you're making a great point that if Ghislaine were to testify, she could answer a lot of questions and she would have probably no reason to lie at this point. Obviously, I don't know her and don't know, but I would imagine she would be willing to share information. And that's what people are so desperate for at this point in time. It's just more information so that we can move on. And it's not even just information about Jeffrey Epstein and how he died or whatever. It's about the larger problem here that folks have been facing for years and decades of being abused by powerful men and women with no regard for accountability.
So Trump has moved pretty quickly, Tim, to file that $10 billion lawsuit against Rupert Murdoch and the Wall Street Journal after the report about the alleged Epstein letter, which Trump denies writing, and NBC News has not seen a copy. But now it threatens to put his relationship with Epstein under greater scrutiny with this lawsuit. Is this a gamble on his part?
What is, look, I think that the gamble that Trump is making, and, he's not subtle about these sort of things, you don't really have to read between the lines, is that he can cow Rupert Murdoch in the way that he has other media outlets. He mentioned in the True Social post about this lawsuit, the lawsuit against George Stephanopoulos and ABC, and the lawsuit against 60 Minutes and CBS, which both settled. And so I think that is the gamble that he is making. On the other side of this, to your point, discovery is not going to be good for Donald Trump related to Jeffrey Epstein. And they had a very extensive friendship. Anytime this stuff comes up, there are these old tabloid articles from New York and London during the 90s when Trump was a private figure about how he would spend time with Maxwell and Epstein. So there obviously is more information out there. Allegedly, this alleged birthday letter, was in the 2006 DOJ filing. So I think that is a risk. But if you're Trump, that's kind of a tomorrow risk, and I think you figure that you can kick the can, and that all this would take a lot of time.
But let me ask you, though, Tim. Certainly Rupert Murdoch and the Wall Street Journal are very aware of the history that you've just chronicled, the recent history of Donald Trump getting money, extracting money from media corporations. The Wall Street Journal says we stand behind all this reporting. You'd think they wouldn't take a risk at encouraging the wrath and a $10 billion lawsuit from Donald Trump unless they were pretty darn sure they had what they needed to hold up in court.
I would say certainly. And I think there's some just sort of anecdotal evidence of this. There was kind of rumors that this Wall Street Journal story was coming for days before it actually did in media circles. There's some reporting on this by Oliver Garcia and others. And to me, that signals that, look, they were working on this. They were ensuring that their sourcing was solid. They had a team of lawyers looking at it. I mean, they got threatened by, according to Darcy, the president, but at least to the White House. So absolutely, I don't think that there's any reason to believe that the Wall Street Journal was reckless in this reporting. And so I think that they're probably on pretty solid ground.